Hey YouTube, what's going on? This is Cheeseboy628 here today, giving you a draft analysis slash recap of NPL, the National Pokeball League, Season 8. So, if you do know from my history with the NPL, I've been here since Season 2, and I did take a quick hiatus on Season 6 just to get my academic life all organized and the like. But here I am, I'm back again. Continuing from Season 7, where it's my first experience when it comes to Gen 7 Mons and that kind of thing. Especially with like Z moves and all those technicalities. Yeah, there's a bunch of different modifications we've done since that Season 2 that I'm going to be talking about here. But of course, it is great to be back. So the first thing I want to talk about is who will be my formidable opponents this season. And this is not to discredit anyone else, I'm just talking about the people that I've known for a while and I know are going to be quite reputable when it comes to this season. So for one thing, Jolt is usually my arch rival, I'd say, in terms of just how we keep going back and forth between the seasons. But this season, he is not in the NPL directly. He's still managing it like he has been forever. But he is currently with the GBA right now, and he's rocking that. And he's also managing March Madness that the token minorities do every year. And so he's got a lot on his plate when it comes to just his Pokemon career, and then also he's doing grad school right now. He's got a lot going on. But I guess it's better that way, you know, less competition, you know how it is. Just kidding, but plenty of formidable opponents. So let's talk about it here. Gypsy King is definitely still in the NPL this season. He's rocking every league that he's been a part of. I'm definitely going to have to be watchful for him. He's notoriously been great, winning NPL first place for some time now. Now, let the record show that I was the one team to beat him last season. I just want to point that out. But no, other things to think about are with Verd. Verd was quite a challenge for me as well last season, and he actually beat me both times that I faced him. I thought I might be able, after my first kind of just regular season game, be able to kind of get the upper hand, but I just did not end up having the matchup and abilities to just kind of take him on, I guess, ultimately. So he was the one that got the eventual Gypsy match in the semis when it came to that last season. But yeah, so those two are quite formidable, and then the last one I want to note is Matty Brawlick. We've been pretty good rivals too for the past couple of seasons. He said this is his last season, from what I've heard. I mean, how official that is, I'm not sure, because I know he's been back and forth about that before. But it's always a pleasure to battle him, it really is. He's a great battler when he puts his mind to it, and I know we're going to have some interesting matchups, you know, going on this season. And yeah, that's basically that when it comes to opponents. So going on from here, let's talk about just different rule changes we've made since last season. But first, in terms of draft format, if you're not familiar, there are 16 teams, and through various choices and random chance and that kind of thing, we developed the order of the 16 teams of who goes first through 16. Now, after you go in order from 1 to 16, then it goes 16 to 1, and that keeps going back and forth until all the slots have been picked. The other thing to note is each Mon has a point value, and you have a limited amount of points to pick these Mons. And so you start with 120, and so when there's Mons that have like 18 point values, you can't be picking those all day, otherwise you're going to be running out of points real quick. And you got to think about the balance of, you want to have great Mons, but at the same time you want to have enough diversity in your team that people can't just guess what you're going to end up bringing. We also made changes to the Z move system. So last season, we were only allowed to give one Mon a Z move if it wanted to use it. Now this season, to confirm, I'm not sure how it was last season, but you can put Z crystals on any of your Mons. It's just you can only use them on the ones that you actually designated to be a Z user. But this time around, we're not excluding it to just having one Z user. So this time around, we said we'll have up to 24 points that you can allot between any of your Mons to be a Z user. So, especially since no Mon is worth 24 points, you should be able to have at least 2 Z users. And I'll talk about my Z users a little bit later on once I talk about the draft. But yeah, let's just get into it at this point. We covered everything in terms of opponents and NPL draft style, although it is worth noting that Riz, unfortunately, is not in the NPL Season 8. Would have been really nice to have some free points, but, you know, besides the point, let's keep going on here. So let me tell you a little bit about my strategy when it comes to drafting mons. So one part of it is just having that synergy, especially that typing synergy, that function synergy. You know, I don't want too many fire types. I don't want too many spinners. I don't want too many walls. You know, I want to get at least a decent bit of balance. So if I do need to pull off some more stally stuff, or I do need to pull off some more hyper offensive stuff, I want to make sure I have the mons to be able to do it. The other side of things is when I face mons that I know are going to be notorious for just being annoying or scary, I'm going to draft them myself, to be honest. And that actually aligns with my first mon that you've been seeing here for some time here. My first choice was Jirachi, and let me tell you as well that these first few picks I was doing a lot of sniping here, and it kind of just worked out with the timing. So something, I guess, not to toot my horn, but I'm pretty good with the sniping stuff. I know when people want certain things, and that's gonna come into play a lot in these choices. But before we get to more of those details, I picked Jirachi because I faced my good pal Jolt quite a few times, who loves Jirachi. Shout out to the Kansas City Jirachis, by the way. But it's 600 BST, it's move diversity, pretty good typing. Yeah, it's a really great mon, and that's why it's so scary to face, and thus I want to be able to use that very trait of its in order to be able to, you know, overwhelm my opponent. So going on to my second pick here, I'm just so amused by this being the first two picks. Again, I just sniped really well apparently because no one wanted KB until second round, I guess. And if so, after my slot, so I got really lucky. It should also be noted that I was 14th when it comes to the draft, so while I'm 14th for the first round pick, I am 3rd for the second round pick. So it was a pretty good turnaround in terms of picking those first two players, so I'm pretty stoked. KB has been threatening forever. I mean, it's just so bulky. I know it ultimately doesn't have the most amazing moves that could suit it. Like, I mean, if it had DD, that would be a GG right there. But no, it's got incredible bulk. Its typing isn't amazing, but at the same time, it's got decent coverage. I mean, it's got quite a few different moves actually the more and more I explore into it. And it is my first Z user choice. I was actually between that and Jirachi for some time because Jirachi ultimately has a more diverse move pool, but then I'm just like, KB is just so strong. I'm going to have to make that the Z user. It would just be a total waste not to. So that automatically takes 17 points of my 24, allotting for Z users away, and therefore I only have 7 to go, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But my next pick was Taboo Bulu. To my recollection, I believe it was the last Tapu to be picked, and from my games with Verd, I knew that Taboo Bulu was a formidable Pokemon. So between grassy terrain and also being able to take hits from Earthquake, sometimes Magnitude, I guess, and Bulldoze. I mean, Magnitude's not going to come around, but Earthquake and Bulldoze, those two can be something. And I already have Jirachi, so I don't want that to take too many hits on the physical ground side, so it makes sense as well. Plus, at this point, all of these mons are grounded, and thus getting the grassy terrain boost of the leftovers like Recovery is also pretty great. And then my next pick, the notorious Vulcanian. And the reason I picked that is because I did want that Fire Water Grass core, and why not have that core between two mons, especially the two most recent ones that I've picked thus far. Yeah, Vulcanian is a great special mon, and it's one of the only ones thus far, it's really the only one of the 4 that I've picked thus far that really is oriented towards being a special user. Now, I can definitely go for some physical stuff, especially since it has Flame Charge, so I can do some kind of set with that. But the point is, I did want to get something that just hits really hard on the special side, and between its dual typing and just finishing off that Fire Water Grass core, I did think it was going to be pretty great. This is also the first mon that is going to have Defog here, and while it's weak to rocks itself, so it's not the most useful for that, it is at least still an option. Now we're getting to pick 5, and this is interesting because, as I told you, I'm a bit of a sniper. So Rob is 16th when it comes to the choice in the draft, so he gets 2 mons at the same time, which can be advantageous, and I already saw he has Drill. And I see other people are like picking Hippo and T-Tar, And to be honest, I've got a bit of an affinity for sand sometimes, okay? I really do like that kind of synergy that sand brings. And so I had to pick Gigalith. And at that point, you know, you're in the 5th round and you don't have any support for Drill. Like, sorry, dude. So that kind of sucked for Rob, but you know what? I'm starting to build my sand team right then and there with Gigalith. So thus far, it's not great in terms of synergy with the rest of the team if I am going to use it for Sandstorm, but even within itself, it gets that Spadef boost just by starting Sandstorm, and then it can also get Rocks up. It's got a decent move pool too when it comes to being offensive. So yeah, I mean, it can take hits. It's a pretty good mon overall, and for 8 points, it really wasn't that bad. Next on my picks was Hawlucha. So seeing that everyone has picked some form of Tapu at this point, you've got to think that someone's going to pick Hawlucha at this point. So I've seen it usually with Tapu Koko, but no, whether it be Electric Seed, Grassy Seed, whatever those names are for these various seeds, Hawlucha plus a Tapu is a really good team synergy. And so I want to try that myself. I've tried it in like normal OU settings and that kind of thing, and it's usually had pretty good results. And so being able to take advantage of that is definitely something I'd like to do. And so there's a number of different sets in terms of bulk, and also like Sub versus Roost, HJK versus Drain Punch, and that kind of thing that I would also like to abuse with Hawlucha, so that'll be fun to test out. Now my next mon was Rotom. So Rotom fits the frame for a number of reasons. One thing in terms of typing, when it comes to Volt Switch, I like both of those utilities. So now I have an Electric mon, I also have a Ghost mon, it also gets Defog. And so it's got a lot of utility there. Now granted, it's not inherently that bulky, like, you know, it's not a Rotom wash kind of thing. It does take less points for it as well though, and for being a ghost, I do like having it. And so ultimately that's kind of why I brought it. In fact, this was another mon that Verd used and could be a little bit troublesome sometimes, so that is why I have it. Next on our list, we have Stoutland. So this is where I'm starting to build up my sand team at this point, because if other people that have T-Tar or Hippo want to start building up and Sand Rush abusing, I'm going to have to start taking these mons. And so that's why I got Stoutland. I'm pretty sure I've used Stoutland in the past, and yeah, I'm pretty sure I used it last season, come to think of it, and I've used it before that too, I think, versus a really good Maddie game back in the day. But yeah, I really like Stoutland. It's inherently bulky, decent move pool, and a couple of different sets that I'd like to bring with it too. I was thinking about it for a while to be my other Z user, but ultimately I chose not to. But yeah, going on to the next mon here, we have Tentacruel. And so here's another water mon we got here, but I like Tentacruel for a number of reasons. Number one, just inherently a good special wall. Number two, it's my first spinner. Number three, like Vulcanian, again, we do have a water type already, but this also can fit the frame in terms of kind of paralleling when it comes to Taboo Bulu in terms of like type coverage and being able to resist each other's kind of issues. You know, it's not perfect, but it is pretty good still. Being able to lay up toxic spikes or absorb toxic spikes is something that I'm also a fan of, and so I think Tentacruel is going to be great. At this point, I'm kind of surprised that no one had picked it because, you know, we're talking about round 9 here, but yeah, I thought I just had to get that. Now we got to pick 10, which is Spiritomb. And I thought about Spiritomb because ghosties can be a little bit scary sometimes, and I think about I mean, including this ghosty here, but the point is I wanted to be able to pursuit trap some of them. And Spiritomb has decent bulk, you know, its only weakness being Fairy. And I ended up making this my Z move user as well. My last one of decent points. We'll talk about the next pick in a second, how that relates. But yeah, I can see Spiritomb having a decent bit of utility. With AV, it's pretty darn bulky. It's got Sucker Punch, it's got Shadow Sneak, it's got Pursuit. And then if you like, you make a Z move Sucker Punch, you know, that way you don't need to worry about prioritizing things and you just hit with a hard dark move. And so if you want to like make KB Scarf or, you know, some other kind of set, the point is that Spiritomb would be able to take that Z Crystal to its advantage if need be. And now we got our 11th pick. And you might be thinking too at this point, I didn't pick my Mega, and we'll get to that next round here, but I picked Arin because at this point, you know, there could be a couple people that want to use this 1 point using Mon here, and I just got to take advantage of it before someone takes it. But as you may know, I'm notorious for using these 1 point Mons. When at this point, I mean, I have such a great draft, an expensive draft though, and so, you know, this had to come at some point. So you know what, it's not Phanpy, it's not Sunkern, which Sunkern is worth 2 points on the draft board, by the way. Sunflora is worth 1, and if that doesn't tell you how it's related between Riz and I in terms of value, I don't know what does. But seriously, I think that's hilarious. I'm revolutionizing the metagame. But no, so that's with Arin being a classic Fearmon, as you may know it. Notorious for being level 1, but hey, I might just bring a nice Violet Arin and take some crazy hits. You don't know what's about to happen, okay? I'm not revealing all my secrets. Great poison resist for sure, you know, it's going to be a great predict. No, but I'm not sure, it might have Stealth Rock too actually, but the point is, you know, yeah, it has the classic Endeavor Shed Shell, and then in conjunction with Sandstorm, this has been a notorious set since at least Gen 5, maybe Gen 4. Now, getting to the last Mon, Mega Steelix. So I had my eye on this Mon for a while because I knew, like, most Megas are pretty darn good anyway, but in terms of point value and especially in terms of synergy with my team, I thought Mega Steelix was going to fit the frame for sure. It's got Sand Force, so it gets a 1.3 times boost to ground, steel, and I think rock type attacks. And so when you're talking Heavy Slam, Stone Edge, and Earthquake, this thing's going to hit like a truck. It's also got incredible defense, something around base 200. So this thing is going to be taking hits for days, and in conjunction with Sand, oh, it was a great pick. I know a lot of people, no one had their eye on it, and it made sense because it just made sense with my team most. But I've seen this thing without Sand too, and it does very well in just like what RU or UU format, and so I'm totally stoked about that pick. But yeah, as a whole, I guess especially these first 4 picks I was really stoked for, and then after that I kind of just started improvising a little bit, although I was like it was a little bit in terms of sniping Rob, but also just like, oh well, I really like Sand teams, so why not? And so at that point I was just kind of fitting roles here. You know, I have a couple of defoggers, which you might think is a little redundant, but at the same time they're not inherent defoggers always. And then just in case I got Tentacruel as a reliable hazard spinner. And yeah, that's basically it in terms of that. I'm really liking the team overall. I know some of the people that were reviewing the various teams liked mine as well. And I really look forward to how this is going to carry me through this season. So my first match is going to be coming up next week, and you'll get more details about that later because I'm not sure what the rules are right now in terms of revealing the schedule. So, hope you guys enjoyed. I am really stoked for this season, and hope you're a fan of the cheese. So thank you all for watching. Like, comment, sub it. Until later. Peace.